Okay, good morning. So we're up to Shin Chaf, working through Hilchas Schita, and today we're talking about lemons. We're talking about squeezing lemons and squeezing food and other rules regarding Schita. So let's take a look. So the Mechaber says in Sif Vav, Shin Chaf Sif Vav, Mutza lischeit limones. You're allowed to squeeze lemons. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chaf Beis, lischeit limones. Citron. Yeah, we call them citron. He's got at the bottom there, limonim. Vahainu, afilu lemashkin. That's even to squeeze lemons to make lemon juice to drink. Va'af shederech lesachtan b'chol, even though we drink it during the week. Kivin she'ein derech klal lesachtan lesorich mashka, and letabel ba'echa, because the Maisa we don't drink the lemon juice straight, but we do it so we can dip food into the lemon juice. Have a kasha peiros, and therefore it's got a din of shah peiros. V'chanal b'sif aleph, like we said previously in sif aleph. Va'afilim aderech lesoch, and therefore it's the third category, and you don't normally squeeze these things for drinking purposes, and therefore Chazal will never geyser on these. Va'afilim aderech lesochton b'chol letoich mayim shenosnu bohem tzukah. Even though during the week you would, when you would squeeze lemons, you don't drink the lemon juice straight. It's a bit sharp. You would squeeze it into water which has got sugar in it, like lemonade or something like that. Lishtos l'ta'anug, it's a refreshing drink. Mikol mokum nagin ha'olim lahakel lasa zeh b'Shabbos. The minhag is to be makel, to allow you to do this on Shabbos. Ve'efshem mishum deloy mitzeh ele kashaderech lishtos mei schitas apri gam beloy tarvus mashka'ache, because they're only acid if you were going to drink it straight. You know, squeeze the grapes or the olives or the tutim and the rimonim and drink the juice straight. But if you're going to pour it always into other ingredients, then it would be different. Inami delay mitzeh ele k'sheseichtin meimov levad v'ach kach ma'arvin oisan. Or it was only also if you squeeze the juice and you've got a bowl of that juice, and then later you add other things to it. But if the minhag is the way you make this lemonade or whatever it is, you squeeze the lemons into another liquid, litin beitam, to give a tam in that liquid, shari. Or lefiza, bizman hazeh, nowadays, sheyodua shememalin chovius lemeas lishtos im punch, I think that is, be'ezek mekomas, where you would make barrels of this liquid. Tzarchi and godel im mutal sochtan b'shabbos letoich mashka. It's tzarchi and godel, you're allowed to squeeze lemons into a liquid. The efshet the domi letutim v'remoinim, because presumably lemons now have a category 2, not category 3. They've got a din of tutim v'remoinim, given the derech lesochton b'kelim b'fnei halsam, because the normal way is to just squeeze lemons into a bowl by them, the juice to collect by itself, and not directly into other liquids. And therefore the way to do it, says the Mishnah Berurah nowadays, is to take the lemon and squeeze it into sugar, to have a kamashka bala eichel, which we discussed yesterday, that if you pour liquid into eichel, you squeeze the lemon into fish, or in this case into sugar, then it's got a din of eichel, and therefore it's okay. To squeeze lemons into food is pasha that it's okay. When the Shulchan Aruch says that you're allowed to squeeze lemons, that's before they are pickled or something, or treated in that way. If you've pickled them in salt and other things, then they will have the same halachas of kvashim and shlokos, which we'll come to in a second in the next seif. So he said a lot here. So it seems a bit sort of surprising almost that he seems quite makel about squeezing lemons. But he said that nowadays, l'chora, that lemons would have the status of tutim v'rimonim, and therefore to just take lemons and squeeze them directly would not be allowed. But to squeeze them into food would be okay. So to take lemons and squeeze them into fish or into salads and things like that would be okay. In terms of squeezing lemons into drink, so that would not be allowed. But once they have the status of tutim v'rimonim. The question is, what about squeezing lemons onto sugar? Now, so for example, you want to make a lemon tea, and you've got your tea essence, let's say, and you've got the hot water, and you've made that, and you've got a lemon tea, and you want to add lemon and sugar. So are you allowed to take the lemon and squeeze it onto the sugar? So the Mishnah Berurah says, "Mefurish, you're allowed to."
Where do you keep the sugar? I don't understand how
You've got a spoon of sugar, right? And then I want to take the lemon and squeeze it onto the thing. But then I'm going to put it into the tea. So the Mishnah Berurah says it's no problem. Why? Because I'm squeezing the lemon onto eichel, and we've established yesterday that that's no problem. So just like I can squeeze the lemon onto fish, that's considered onto eichel, and that's no problem. Well, so too, I'm squeezing it onto sugar, so that should be okay. However, if you take a look at the 25, the Mishnah Berurah the footnote here brings the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish argues with the Mishnah Berurah. He says, the Chazon Ish Kosov, shekiven shesoifa litin is hasukah l'toich mayim. At the end of the day, since I'm going to put the sugar into the liquid very shortly anyway, harizeh also. Why? Shedaita beschita l'sachta kamashka. Because essentially I'm pouring the lemon juice into the lemon tea, into the liquid. And therefore I'm recognizing the liquid of the lemon that is emerged from the lemon is got a din of a mashke, not of a eichel. And therefore I'm separating mashke from eichel. Even though it is absorbed in the sugar, so this is a machlekes Chazon Ish and Mishnah Berurah. Can I squeeze a lemon into sugar, which I'm then going to put into the lemon tea? The Mishnah Berurah says yes, and the Chazon Ish says no. Interestingly, in footnote 23, he says, what about squeezing the lemon onto honey? Is that any different? So he says in 23 that it's a problem. Or schita al gabi dvash, squeezing a lemon onto honey, kosa b'shadid shuvas shevet halevi, she'ein zenidin kamashke habola eichel. This is, the honey is not considered like eichel, rather it's considered like a liquid, and therefore squeezing lemons onto honey would not have the same heta as squeezing lemons onto sugar that the Mishnah Berurah allows. Seder? Okay.
What happens if what happens if you're squeezing the lemon into the liquid where the honey is already?
So that's even worse because that's even worse because what emerges is squeezing the lemons into any liquid would not be allowed because they would have the din of tutim v'rimonim nowadays, and therefore squeezing it into the liquid, even even in the honey directly, would not be allowed. The only hetetic way of doing it is squeezing the lemons onto the sugar and then putting the sugar into the lemon tea. That would be, and then that's only allowed according to the Mishnah Berurah, not according to the Chazon Ish. But doing it directly into the liquid would not be allowed. And that's, okay. Or, by the way, this is only taking a lemon and squeezing the lemon. If you've got a bowl of lemon juice, you get the bottles of squeezed lemon juice. That's not a shiloh. There's no schita there. Yeah. Okay. The bottle, from a bottle. Yeah, that's lemaisa.
Squeezing the bottle.
Squeezing the bottle is fine. Yes. Okay. Good. Siv Zayin. Now, this is also a very interesting one. What about if you've got a kugel? And you've got a piece of kugel, and you've got a bit too much oil in the kugel, and you want to squeeze out the oil from the excess oil from the piece of potato kugel. So says the Mechaber Siv Zayin, Lischit kavashim pirush peiros u'minei yerokos, fruits and veg hamunachim b'choymetz of a melach that have been put in salt and vinegar kadei shelo yirkavu or shlokos and vegetables and things like that. Im legufam, if you're doing it because it will enhance the actual food itself. I'm not doing it so that I want the liquid that I'm squeezing out. I'm doing it only to improve the eating. Even if I'm squeezing it into a kara which hasn't got any eichel in it, is mutter. So removing excess liquid from a food is allowed. But if I'm doing it for the liquid, then that's a problem, unless of course you squeeze it into a kadera which has food in it, which we've said before is okay. Stam to squeeze the excess liquid from these vegetables or from tuna or from kugel or something like that, if stam into a bowl without any food, would not be allowed. But if it's in order to get the juice, but if it's to enhance the food itself, then it would be allowed. Okay, so just again to summarize, that if to squeeze fruit and vegetables, or kugel or tuna, to remove excess liquid, oil or the liquid of the fruit or the vegetable or the tuna, whatever it is, then if it's to enhance the food, that's allowed. If it's to collect the liquid, it is not allowed unless you're doing it into other eichel. Okay, now, yeah, that's a separate shayla. Opening cans of binyan b'stira, and again there are matirim who are allowed to do it.
Let's say it's open, just to.
You'll say that's the shayla of beira of removing. So you've got a can and you want to sort of use the lid to just.
No, just to get.
So long as you don't do a proper beira, you keep some of the liquid in the can, then that would be okay. So you haven't done a proper sieving process. You just removed a little bit of the liquid.
Though you don't want the liquid, you just want to get rid of the liquid too.
Right. So long as you leave a bit of the liquid behind, then it's okay. Because there you're removing the pseudos from the eichel, and you've got a problem. Yeah. Okay. Now then the Mechaber brings the shit of Rabbeinu Chananel, which we came across yesterday. Rabbeinu Chananel, he's strict about this. Kol shel tzarich lemeimehen chayav chatzos. Whenever you remove the liquid, it's always awesome in Atayra. Afilu sochat lekeder sheyesh ba'eichel. Even if you do it into eichel, it's not allowed. Or ledvarav hasochet eshkel lekeder nami asa. So Rabbeinu Chananel doesn't allow this whole thing. Squeezing into eichel, he just doesn't go with it. He doesn't allow it, as we'll see in the Mishnah Berurah in more details. Okay, shlokes chav gimel says the Mishnah Berurah. Hainu yerek. This is the vegetable, shesholkon, that you cook them, longer cooking, and they're sort of saturated in liquid. Imlu gufon, if you are squeezing them in order to remove excess liquid, you're removing the liquid that is floating on them, or is absorbed within them, I don't do it because I want the liquid in the vegetables. I just want to enhance the taste of the fruit or the vegetables. Salatin, lettuce or salad. After you've soaked it in water. This is not a shayla of mafarik, as we've discussed. For after even if I'm just doing it, collecting in a bowl, and Eina Mashka Holich Ibud is not doing over a sink or something like that, it's not a problem. Since I'm not doing it for the benefit of the liquid, Eina Bichlal Malacha is not part of the Malacha. I'm doing it to enhance the food itself. However, this is only allowed for other foods, not for Zeisim and Anovim. Zeisim and Anovim are sort of a nuclear. They're the derisive problems, and therefore you're not allowed to, even if you want to squeeze the grape or squeeze the olive in order to enhance the grape or olive for you to eat, that is not allowed. Because the majority of Zeisim and Anovim is squeezed for liquids, and therefore there is no heta for that. So it does not apply to Zeisim and Anovim. Chafhei, Ella, what's this going on? Yes, you're doing it to enhance the food. So, for example, if you've got lakshan, or if you've got kugel or things like that, because of the excess oil in them, you're allowed to squeeze it in order to remove the excess oil. Because you've got too much oil in it. The Chayodam allows you to squeeze lakshan or kugel for something, for another reason, the shuman shemafrisha having gam kineichel, because the shuman that you're removing has got a status of eichel, and therefore it's not a problem. The whole problem is when you take mashke from eichel, not eichel me eichel. So there's another reason why removing excess oil from kugel and from things like that is allowed. L'toicha ka'ara. So we said that that if you're doing it to remove the excess oil, to enhance the food, is no problem. And if you're doing it to enhance because you want the liquid, so then if you're doing it into food, it's okay. But if it's in a separate bowl, it's not allowed. L'toich ka'ara, that's not allowed. You can never squeeze for the benefit of Motzei Shabbos. That's never allowed.
What's considered squeezing? Is it if I just put the lid and just pour it out?
No, or squeezing down on the.
No, but is that considered sweet as well? If I just
No.
let's say lid and just.
No, that's a shayla boiro. That's that's just But if you're squeezing down on the kugel to remove all the oil that's absorbed in it. Chav zayin l'teich kadeira v'loy gar me eshkol demuta v'chanal b'siv dalet. There's no worse than the eshkol that we spoke about previously. Chav ches sheyesh ba'eichel, but squeezing the excess oil out, not because to enhance the food, because you want the water, but doing it into eichel is allowed. V'adin l'teich hamuria, so too into this fish sauce to have a k'meichel. Having Michael, it's got a din of Michael. Avolotecha mashkin is also like we said. Okay, fine. But if you do it into a pot without any oichel, it's also says the Mishnah Berurah of Tes. Va'afagav de b'shap peres mutalis chetafilim memehen v'chanal b'sif aleph shani hasem she'ein shem mashka me peres ve'in kamafred oichel me'oichel. That's because it's got a din of oichel me'oichel. Ma she'ein kein hacha to'es shem mashkelov me'koidem she'nivle v'shayich b'shem schita. You had the liquid did have a status previously. There's no chiv chatas here. The svirlei dvater ein chav ela al schita zeisim alovim bevad or kamesha kosav b'reish hasimen, like we said at the very beginning of the siman. Good. And then the Mechaber brought the shit of the Rabbeinu Hananel that he doesn't allow this at all. That he doesn't allow squeezing onto eichel. So says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot Lamed Hine Rabbeinu Hananel b'shnei dvarim palig al derech sheina. He's arguing and is being strict in two ways. Aleph, number one, the svir lei de im tzarich lememein chayv afilu b'kvashim v'shlokos. That even if you're squeezing the kvashim and shlokos, the fruit and vegetables, for the benefit of the liquid, he doesn't allow that. And base, and we of course allow it into eichel. And base the he never allows squeezing into eichel at all anyway. And even though all the poskim argue with Rabbeinu Hananel, that we say that you can squeeze lemons into fish because mashke habola eichel has got a din of an eichel and it's no problem. V'chanal b'sif dalet. V'halacha k'divrei, and halacha is like the lenient opinion. And that's why the Mechaber brings the mainstream opinion bestama, sort of anonymously. Nevertheless, the Mechaber brings the shit of Rabbeinu Hananel lahiros to tov lahachmik kedvarav, that is good to be machmir like him. A machmir tovel of bracha, and someone who's machmir like the Rabbeinu Hananel tovel of bracha, which is kosav b'tshuvas harosh shuvu beis Yosef. But lemaisa the olam are noeg, I think, a makel, and you see people squeeze lemons onto fish and things like that. That seems quite common. But if but as the Mishnah Berurah says, hamachmir tovel of bracha. Okay, let's just do one more. Sifches hasoichet dag letziroi. If you squeeze some fish to extract the juice, dina kasoichet kvashim mishlokus lememehen, which to enhance the food is allowed. Says the Mishnah Berurah Lamed Aleph letziroi rotzolema shesochat dag lahaitzi tziroi chetzorichloi. You're squeezing the fish to remove the excess liquid. We're talking about removing liquid that has come stum. V'chanal avol b'tzir hayetz megufay doime l'soichet shakol haperes l'meim of the muta v'chanal in Sif Aleph. So to squeeze it out for the liquid is not allowed, but to squeeze it to enhance the food would be allowed. Okay, so just to summarize, maybe we'll just take it from the Simcha Bunim Kohen. He summarizes it all excellently as well. He said, so what conditions are you allowed to do schita? So he says, number one is to enhance the food. So the rabbinic prohibition against squeezing liquids from a food applies only when one's intention is to procure the liquid. It is permissible to squeeze out a food in order to enhance its flavor. So for example, one is permitted to squeeze the excess oil out of a can of tuna. However, because of the prohibition of bury, you can only do that somach lachila. Okay, that's fine. And number two, squeezing liquids onto solid foods. So there are circumstances in which one is permitted to squeeze out liquid from a food, even if one's intention is to procure the liquids. In the case of schita d'Rabbanan, for example, not olives and grapes, liquid may be squeezed directly onto solid food, provided that either the liquid is being used to flavor the food, right, lemon juice onto fish or something, or most of the liquid is absorbed by the food. It's going into the food. But it's forbidden, however, to squeeze a liquid into another liquid, even for flavoring. So we can't take the lemon juice and squeeze it into the drink, into the thing. So to illustrate, one may squeeze lemon juice directly onto fish as flavoring. However, one may not squeeze lemon juice into tea. However, you can squeeze it onto a spoonful of sugar, provided that most of the juice will be absorbed by the sugar. Okay, that's just a very useful summary of everything we've said.
Not according to Chazon Ish.
Yeah, that he's going like the Mishnah Berurah and not according to Chazon Ish. Say that. Okay.